Unfortunately, my old bass boat didn't come with a jack plate. So, you know, you just have to have a jack plate on a bass boat to get the peak performance. There's just no other way. I've got this 6-inch setback jack plate from TH Marine. You know, you see TH jack plates on bass boats all over the country. They're a proven commodity. And this one is the Pro Hijacker Z-Lock. This thing is built so that you cannot have any side-to-side sway, and it will handle outboards up to 300 horsepower. So it's really going to do a great job for me. It is just sturdy aluminum aircraft, aluminum, half-inch thick. This is a solid piece of work. Now, one thing that you're going to have with any manual jack plate, or you should have, is a bolt right here in the middle. Now, if I loosen the side bolts with the engine on there, all I have to do to raise or lower the outboard all by myself is to turn this in or out, and I can put that outboard precisely where I want it. And that's really important because, gee, a difference of just a fraction of an inch can make a huge difference in the performance in your whole shot, your mid-range acceleration, and your top-end speed. And you want to get everything you can out of your motor, not only for just all-around performance, but that will also save you gas. So, you know, I'm thrilled to have this jack plate. I can't wait to get it on there and see what it does for me. I didn't feel comfortable installing a jack plate myself. I don't have a winch or the tools needed to lift the outboard. Attempting to detach the outboard without a winch could have resulted in costly damage. I wisely enlisted Blaine Schwartzel, a superb bass boat mechanic at Schwartzel Marine in Hockingport, Ohio, to install the jack plate for me.
All right, pop the motor cover. Okay, well, get our special mercury lifting tool. We're going to hook our little half-ton come along on here. We're going to pick up, take a little pressure off of it. Okay, we got the pressure off of it, so now we're going to take the mounting bolts off, grab our 3/4 inch wrenches.
Someone had previously installed top hats to the other two mounting bolts under the splash whale and the boat's back deck. This eliminated the need to remove the batteries or do other steps that would have been required to reach these bolts. Blaine simply removed the nuts from the outboard stern bracket on the outside of the transom.
Yeah, we got all the nuts and the washers off on the mounting hardware. Now we're just going to kind of shake it, pull it back a little bit. Now we're clear of the boat. Well, we really lucked out on this installation. Our steering cables are long enough to accept the jack plate. Okay, well, we're going to remove the old silicone from try to get it down to get most of it to where we can kind of get it off with our fingers there and rub it like that. It's rolling right up there. And then we'll come back in here and we'll put the new, we're using black. I kind of like black because that way I can see where it goes. We have the white self-locking in the aircraft nuts. We're going to put a little bit of grease in there so we don't gald up with stainless, so we don't gald it up. All right, we got our jack plate slid up on there. We've got our nut and our washer on our mounting hardware. We're going to put them on the top so it'll hold it in place. I've got my knee down here holding this thing so it won't slide off. Going to put the other side on the port side. We'll thread these up. And as mentioned earlier, because the guy put the top hats on the bottom bolts, I'm going to reach over here and I'm going to grab the nuts and bolts. Of course, we put a washer and a nut on. We'll do the bottom ones. Reach right in here. We're tightening up the top mounting bolts now. We're going to torque them up to manufacturer specifications. It's a good thing when you after you use the boat a little bit too, to go back and retighten all these after you run it a couple times. We got her lined up. There we go. We got the bolt in there. We're going to put a lock washer, or a flat washer, and a lock washer. Got our grease on our nut. We're tightening that bad boy down.
Blaine attaches the outboard to the jack plate with the new mounting bolts. Before he did this, he determined which holes in the outboard stern bracket would get the outboard close to the proper engine height.
We got her tightened down. Now we're going to let her off the winch, unhook, Unthread our Merc tool, and the most important part, especially if you're fishing brackish water, we're going to put our little yellow plug back in so that it'll keep any corrosion from getting in there, and so the next guy that goes to work on it, it won't be that hard for him. All right, we've got everything mounted, everything down. We're going to put the cowling on it, finish it up.
Right now I'm about an hour from home at a place called Buckeye Lake. It's the nearest lake I have to me in Ohio where I can actually run my boat and put it on plane and test the prop. And the ideal situation would be to have a number of props to test so you could really compare them, you know, apples to apples on the water. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to do that, which most people don't. So what I did was a lot of online research. You know, I talked to marinas, I talked to Mercury about their props. You know, I talked to boat builders, and one prop kept coming up in the conversation, and that was the Mercury Tempest, and that's this one right here, a 3-blade, and a 23 pitch seemed to be the right one for my 18'4" boat with the 150 here. I'd consider getting a 4-blade because I do a lot of fishing on places like Lake Erie, you know, big water where a 4-blade prop tends to hold better at low speeds. But this prop, this Tempest prop, you know, I've got some good reports on it as being just a good all-around prop for top speed, and because it has such a large blade surface area, it actually does a good job on big water too. So I just couldn't help going with this prop just because I heard so many good things about it. Blaine eyeballs the engine height to get it close to the optimal setting. His years of experience with many different bass boats and motors helps him in this respect. With my boat and motor, Blaine wanted the water that flows from under the running pad to pass above the lower 4 water intake holes on the outboard's lower unit and below the upper 4 water intake holes. Blaine's rule of thumb is that for every inch the outboard is set back from the running pad, you raise the engine 1/2 inch. Bear in mind that you must also include any distance that the transom may be set back from the running pad. Because my running pad ends about 7 inches forward of the transom, this allows for a higher engine height than with a boat that has a running pad that's flush with the transom. I ran the boat after Blaine set the engine height at what he regarded as a good starting point. I hit 60 miles per hour with the boat empty at 5,800 RPM. It runs 55 miles per hour loaded at about 5,500 RPM, which is close to what I believe is Mercury's recommended top end of 5,600 RPM. Given how well the boat performed, I found no need to make any adjustments to the engine's height. Blaine knows his stuff. I asked Bass Pro and TV fishing host Ray Brazier to explain the differences between a hydraulic jack plate and a manual jack plate. He also knows his stuff.
Hello, I'm Ray Brazier, co-host of Fishing University and a Bassmaster Pro for over 30 years. Today we're going to talk about jack plates. Now, what the purpose of the jack plate is and the different types. First of all, I want to clear the air about one subject real quick, and that's raising your jack plate and trimming your motor. Some people, I'll say, raise your jack plate and they want to trim your motor. Two different things, okay? A jack plate vertically goes up and down, has nothing to do with your trim. Now there's two different types of jack plates. There's a hydraulic and a manual. We'll talk about these in just a moment, but the first thing is, why do I even want to put a jack plate on my boat to start with? Well, a jack plate lets you infinitely adjust your motor height. Now think about it. The closer this propeller is to the surface, the easier it is to turn. Therefore, your motor can turn more RPMs, and the result, you get to go faster. You know, the other big advantage of a jack plate is it actually adds some length to your boat. So it changes your fulcrum. You're just like a big seesaw. When I put that motor back another 8-10 inches, I actually make the front end lighter, makes the boat easier to lift, and that creates more performance. Now, what type of jack plates and how do I set them? Two major types, hydraulic and manual. Now, I'm personally running the Atlas hydraulic. This has a self-contained hydraulic unit that I can adjust while I'm running. I can change the motor height infinitely while I'm running. Now, will this give me any more speed over a manual? To the average fisherman, no, it will not. But one big advantage to a hydraulic, if you're out here and the wind's blowing real hard, you can actually lower your motor to make the boat more stable, keep your prop in the water, keep from tearing up some things. Another place where I use it a lot is going back into shallow coves. I'll raise my motor all the way on the jack plate, and I can go back into shallower places without damaging my prop. Another place that I use a hydraulic jack plate that people don't think about is loading and unloading my boat. How many propellers have been damaged on the boat ramp? So I'll raise mine up before I go on the trailer. When I come out, my prop looks just like it did when I took it out of the box. Now, we talk about the hydraulic and what it does. Now let me show you the manual. You know, I'm at Mark's Hicks project boat, and Mark has been working on this boat and showing how you can come from a used boat and make it competitive in the national tournament trails. And on his boat, he has the new T&H Marine Z-Lock manual plate. It does the same thing that the hydraulic does. It'll move it up and down, but you literally have to loosen the bolts on the side, which are the locking bolts, and then you have an adjustment screw in the center that you tighten. I suggest that you adjust this jack plate in 1/4 inch increments, and I know this is painstakingly slow, but now listen, we're trying to get optimum performance, and optimum performance also equals better gas mileage, and I'll tell you more about that later. But loosen these bolts, raise your jack plate up by this screw 1/4 inch, go out and run your boat and see how it performs. Check your RPMs, and you're wanting maximum RPMs. My motor should be turning 5,800 RPMs maximum, and he adjusts that by changing the pitch on his propeller. But with this jack plate, he'll get better performance, better gas mileage, and actually, if adjusted right, better hole shot. So a jack plate is very key to a bass fishing's arsenal.